Hi guys, I'm Libertman, forced to be alone but free to decide how. Today we're going to face a question everyone feels at some point, but very few dare to say out loud. What if life actually had no meaning at all? Not as a provocation, but as a real possibility. Because maybe the problem isn't that life has no meaning, but that we were made to believe it should have one. So the brains need to invent purpose. Your brain is a storytelling machine. For millions of years, it evolved to detect patterns, to connect random events into something coherent. That urge for meaning isn't necessarily mystical, but at least it has a proved biological base. Behind your forehead sits what is called the medial prefrontal cortex. Its job is to build a narrative about you as an identity. It stitches fragments of your life into a story with the main character. That is you. Every time something happens, it doesn't just record it. It interprets it, relates it to your past, and projects it into the future. Thanks to that, you can plan, you can have an identity, and feel a continuity in the story. But that self isn't an objective reality. It's a functional fiction created to survive. Proof comes from patients with injuries in that region that in which they lose the narrative continuity. They live purely in the present moment without asking who I am or what am I here for. And surprisingly, they don't feel existential emptiness when they lack that region of the brain. So they just exist moment by moment without needing every instant to mean something bigger. So the question, what is the meaning of my life, isn't a sign of necessarily a spiritual depth. It's the product of a specific neural circuit wired to manufacture meaning because it is programmed to. Then let's see a little bit more about this biological engine of purpose. Another key structure is the nucleus accumbens, part of your brain's reward system. It drives you to seek food, mates, status, goals, and it fires not when you get something, but while you are chasing it. The sense of purpose runs on the same circuitry that makes you hunt, that makes you compete, that makes you explore. So your brain doesn't really distinguish between seeking food and seeking meaning. It's the same dopamine, the same mechanism. That's why human life is an endless search. We are not built to find, but to keep searching. When we get what we want, we instantly want something else. Modern life is the hedonic treadmill applied to metaphysics. So now step outside the brain and look at the universe. Physics tells us it has no goal or values. The universe only has laws, and those laws don't care about you or don't care about me. They simply function. The second law of thermodynamics says entropy always increases. Everything decays, everything disintegrates. Your body, your achievement, your memory, no matter how important they were. Not because the universe is cruel, but the universe does it because it's indifferent, it's neutral. The same principles apply to a flower or a galaxy or you or me. There's no special clause for the noble purposes necessarily. Maybe there is room for that too. But from that perspective, your life carries the same ontological weight as a rock. You are a temporary physical event in a purposeless cosmos or universe, and yet your brain keeps demanding meaning. That clash between the craving for purpose and a silent universe that don't give you a meaning is what Albert Camus called the absurd. So Camus didn't invent despair. He just described it more clearly than others. Let's dive a little bit into what nihilism is. The nihilism says nothing matters, no values, no purpose. Then why to live? Its logic leads to paralysis or to suicide. Camus stared into that abyss and refused to run. He accepted that life lacks inherent meaning, but also that we still want to live. So the absurd is born from that collision, the clash between our hunger for meaning and the universe's silence or lack of response. Life itself is not absurd, but our relationship to it is. We shout into the void expecting a reply, but the void always stays silent. So the absurd isn't in the void. It's our waiting for a voice that will never answer. So let's explore. It doesn't mean that I take all the propositions by Albert Camus as my own philosophy of life, but I found helpful and useful to add, not to replace a belief with another or a worldview with another, just to add this worldview that I didn't know about and I didn't have, because it could be helpful for certain people, for certain men going on certain circumstances, even if it is temporarily in their lives. So let's explore what it is the three possible responses to the fact of the absurd. Camus said that in the face of absurdity, we have three options. The first option, how to react to the absurd, would be the self-deception. So inventing comforting stories as a coping mechanism. God has a plan, everything happens for a reason, useful lies, but lies nonetheless. And the second way to react to the absurd would be to surrender to the absurd, to collapse into that despair that we experience. and then we say, if nothing matters, nothing's worth doing. That is the pure nihilism. And the third possible reaction to the absurd would be a conscious rebellion, to accept that life has no meaning, and but still choose to live, to create a meaning without needing justification, to start acting, loving, building, knowing that nothing lasts. That third option is to live absurdly, and for Camus is the freest and most honest way to exist. Maybe you have heard about the Sisyphus story, metaphorical story, and symbolism, and the joy of the what it is futile. So the perfect symbol of the absurd is Sisyphus, that he is supposedly condemned to push a heavy rock uphill forever, knowing the rock it will always roll back down when he gets to the top. So every effort has been erased, and every victory undone. But it still, Camus came with the conclusion that one must imagine that Sisyphus is happy. We don't know from what place he's doing what he's doing. He might be enjoying it, what he's doing it. If he reframe his own reality, knowing that it has no meaning, it makes no sense to do that effort if you know that the heavy rock will roll back down again and again endlessly. But he can decide to freely experience that as the way of confirming that that is what makes sense in life for him, because he doesn't feel, for example, any sense in staying quiet and staying in the same place without doing anything. So he prefers to push the rock nevertheless. So because if Sisyphus knows that the rock will fall and still chooses to push it, then the act itself becomes his freedom, not yours or not mine, but it might be his freedom, his choice. He no longer seeks meaning in reaching the top, but he seeks meaning in choosing to keep pushing. That is the reframing I was talking about. That is the core of the absurdism, or this philosophical school. To live without hope, yet without surrender to the external conditioning of life. To find fulfillment in the act that you choose and not the outcome. So let's explore a little bit about the neuroscience of accepting the absurd. That is this third possible reaction when we find the reality to be absurd. So people who truly face an existential crisis and decide to keep living show some measurable neurobiological changes. Activity decreases in brain areas linked to anticipatory anxiety and rumination. The inner conflict between what I want and what is dissolves. So you stop expecting anything from the universe, from life, and you get exactly that. That acceptance is not resignation. is simply clarity. The peace of the absurd man comes from ending that resistance. So your brain is built to seek meaning. The universe has none to offer. Between those two forces lies the absurd. But you can choose neither escape nor despair. You can live inside that absurd with open eyes. This changes you because it lowers anxiety, increases a sense of presence, and returns your power to choose your own values. You don't have to follow any learned system of values from society. So, how do you live each day knowing nothing has meaning? How do you wake up, work, love, and create when emptiness is part of the landscape? So let's explore a little bit about this. Until now, we have discovered something that is both uncomfortable and liberating at the same time. That the universe doesn't owe us a meaning, and that the search for it is not a punishment, but an invitation. So now let's go further to see how we can live well within that emptiness and turn it into our greatest advantage, and see whether this meaninglessness becomes an opportunity for another type of fulfilling experience while we are alive. So Camus said the absurd is not a wall, but it is a mirror. When we stop begging the world for answers, we see our own reflection for the first time. We reduce the noise in the middle. If life has no predetermined meaning, then we are free to create our own. The absence of cosmic purpose is not a tragedy necessarily. It is a space to build your own meaning. You can start from zero and redefine everything from scratch at this very moment of your life, at 30, 40, 50 years old. So you can fill it with your own priorities, your values, your relationship, your rhythm. If you can create the type of society that you want, even if at first your new society is comprised only of yourself and maybe 2 or 3 crazy ones, but any society started with one person. So that's not nihilism, it's authorship, to put it a name. So let's see what happened with this modern void and collective demotivation situation that we are facing in these days. Our time is defined by a crisis of meaning. Traditional structures, family, religion, the nation, patriotism, no longer sustain stable identities. We replace them with productivity, dopamine, and algorithms. And so what was the result of that? That men who feel invisible, useful, they only feel useful only as long as they perform, but actually the men are never truly seen. It's not laziness, it's an existential burnout. So men have realized that effort no longer equals a reward, that love no longer guarantees connection, and that morality no longer ensures respect. But this collapse of external validation can be the beginning of internal freedom. So let's dive deeper into what creating meaning consciously is. Creating meaning is not pretending, it's not a coping mechanism. It's designing your life as if it were a project. You don't wait for meaning to appear, but you build it piece by piece through what you choose to give energy to. You can choose meaning in art, you can choose meaning in curiosity about how the world functions, you can find meaning in helping others, you can find meaning in mastering a new skill, or in simply living each day awake, because it's the same as producing a lot of things and not producing anything at all. It has the same value, so you choose. The point isn't to find the meaning, but to choose what it is meaningful for you, with full awareness that it's a personal creation. So that's the true rebellion, living intentionally in a meaningless world, and despite the world might seem meaningless, then the reality is giving you the power back to create your own meaning, to choose what you want to live. That doesn't mean that it's easy to implement, but theoretically that is what it is. So to act without the promise of reward is the purest form of freedom. You no longer serve an external God, a system, or a destiny. You serve your chosen values. And those values not necessarily must be selfish. That is the paradox, because not only serving yourself, serving your own values are going to be serving yourself in a selfish way. You can decide to make the best for yourself and the other people as well, and to make everyone feels well, at least in your society, in which by now you are the only citizen at the moment. So you can work, you can love, you can learn, you can I'm not singing Alanis Morissette song, and you can create, not because it leads somewhere, but because doing it is the reward itself. It's not about escaping the absurd. It's about dancing with it, like moving with it graciously, because you cannot avoid it anyways. So when you stop demanding perfection from life, you start living with serenity. So now let's see how each of the C4PC macro group experiences they absorb. Each type of man, each quadrant of personality faces meaninglessness in his own way. So let's see how each can find freedom through it. In the case of the internal rationals, they are the thinkers, the analysts, the seekers of truth. So the idea that life has no meaning can feel threatening. Their minds crave structure, cause, and coherence. But once they realize the absence of meaning is also a pattern, that even chaos follows laws, they find peace through understanding. So what they can do to mitigate this worry? Well, start study for the personality types that falls inside this macro group of the internal rationals. You can study philosophy, science, or systems theory, write down your personal worldview, redefine ethics based on reason, not an external dogma imposed from the outside. And then you will get intellectual autonomy and a sense of inner calm without illusions. For the type of personalities that fall into the macro group called external rationals, who are the builders, the creators, the doers, for them purpose exists only when turned into action. So the idea that nothing matters does not depress them. It frees them from pressure. They can focus on tangible goals, innovation, and practical mastery. So what they can do is to launch projects, businesses, or community initiatives, build something lasting, even if it's small and tiny, and to value process and progress over ideology. And they will get a sense of meaning rooted in competence and creation. For the four types of personality types or personality that falls into the macro group internal emotional, that they are the sensitive and introspective and often haunted by emptiness. So they search for emotional coherence and authenticity. The loss of cosmic meaning can feel devastating for the personality types of this group. But once they discover that beauty itself can be meaning, everything changes. So what they can do is to express through art, through writing or symbolic creation, to find transcendence in aesthetics and emotion, to transform pain into poetry, isolation. They can redefine it into depth. And in this way, they can get emotional fulfillment through creativity and inner exploration. And for the four personality types that falls into the macro group called the external emotionals, they are empathic, social, and driven by connection. So the absence of universal meaning can feel isolating to them, but they can rebuild it through human bonds. They are the ones who can create shared meaning through groups, friendships, or causes that unite others. So what they can do is to lead community projects or rituals, create spaces for emotional support, to turn connection into a form of transcendence. And in this way they will get purpose found in belonging and in service. So it's important also to see when the philosophy of the absurd becomes a trap. Not everyone can handle the weight of freedom. If it is misunderstood, this absurdism worldview can lead to apathy or hedonism. So it's not that nothing matters or whatever. It's nothing matters by default. So I'm free to decide what matters to me. That's a huge difference. Freedom without direction is chaos. But freedom with awareness is art, is creation. So we are entering an era where no one can dictate your purpose. The church, the state, the whatever collective, they no longer define you. They can feel that can feel like emptiness at first, but it's actually existential adulthood. You no longer ask, what's the purpose of life? But now you start asking, what purpose am I willing to create today? Even you can create another next year. That's how civilization change, when people stop following in general and they start choosing. And so some real world examples of this would be, for example, a man who loses his job and starts growing food for himself. He does it not as escape, but as a new connection with life. Another one would be someone who stops chasing validation from women and finds motivation in mentoring kids in his neighborhood. Or another one who simply learns to sit with silence each morning, feeling gratitude just for existing. This could be different to all types of personalities. They are not chasing meaning, they are living it. They are living the meaning that they chose to experience. So to live without meaning is not to live without joy. It's to find joy without conditions. The sky doesn't need purpose to be beautiful, to be blue, to be shiny. A song doesn't need to save you, to move you necessarily. Some people experience songs like that, but not all of them necessarily. And your life doesn't need a final goal to be worth living. Meaning is optional in life. And presence, the sense of presence, is enough for that fulfillment that we are looking for as humans. So that is one of the paradoxes of freedom, right? Like the Camus said that the struggle itself, the struggle itself toward the hates is enough to fill a man's heart. There is a quote by Albert Camus, and so that's the secret. The act of living, absurd as it is already the answer. Living is the answer. Maybe the ultimate meaning of life is simply to keep walking like Sisyphus, knowing that every step is the meaning. So thank you for listening up to this point. If something of this video has been helpful to you, please leave a comment and share your thoughts. I would highly appreciate it. And please like and subscribe to support this channel. Stay strong and take care, and see you in the next one.